Welcome to the series CyberSec, A Way of Life, brought to you by LnDToday and powered by ARCON Tech Solutions. Our leader today is a well-rounded professional with over 20 years of rich industry experience across the industry. He comes with hardcore experience in the financial domain, having worked with companies like Khan and now Tradebulls Securities. His work has been towards transforming the IT portfolio of the companies he has worked with, from planning budgets to creating a roadmap to implementing large-scale IT transformation, product development, and digital marketing. He's here with us today to share his insights on the cybersecurity industry and what the industry holds for the stakeholders in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Anees Mitha, CTO at Tradebulls Securities. Thank you, Anees, for joining us today.
Hi, thanks.
Talking about disruptions brought in by the pandemic in the organization's cyber setup and its impact on digitalization and cybersecurity, how did you handle the situation in your organization?
Due to pandemic and lockdown, we are witnessing exponential growth in digitalization. We have accelerated nearly 10 years ahead in the future. And for few organizations, digitalization was the only option. But due to urgency and speed of implementation, some of the businesses have overlooked some very critical or crucial aspect of digitalization, of digital journey, that is risk and security. We need to understand that just by going online, by creating an application or a website, or by giving access for remote location is not completely a digitalization. And it was never such a big challenge. Nearly 84% of the digital transformation projects fail, and that's a huge number. When an entire economy is going online at such a large scale, the overall success of digitalization depends on few key components such as human resource, technology infrastructure, digital literacy, law enforcement, favorable cyber policies by the government, and last but not the least, risk and security. Also, for going digital, we need a robust policy framework and security infrastructure to be implemented by the government. We need to demand standards. We need to demand some regulation. But now, since we are already in it, there is no way to turn back. We have to keep moving forward. So today, the world is witnessing a new cyber world order. And it's not a small change. It's a paradigm shift. The highlight of this digital phase is the speed of execution. And today, for any business, that's the only option for survival. So now, in order to move forward, we need to fail fast and learn fast. The situation has forced us to take quick decisions, plan it out and execute it real fast. Now, talking about pandemic, how and why pandemic became such a big catastrophe in modern India, I'll start with saying that we were sufficiently aware of the lockdown situation, received enough or plenty of warnings. It would be wrong to state that the situation was completely unprecedented. A lot of global news of pandemic and lockdown were making rounds. Our neighboring country, China, which has infrastructure facilities 5 times more advanced than India, was under lockdown. So assuming that such a situation is never going to happen over here was a very naive thought. Even after so many news and information about pandemic and its impact, we were very slow in reacting to a visible threat. And for that, everyone has to be blamed. Government, organizations, and even individuals, everyone. So we had enough time to prepare ourselves or at least gear up for business as usual. Technology is one of the most dynamic industries. So for us, facing challenges or disruptions is a normal thing. But the reason why pandemic became such a big challenge from technology perspective is that a lot of fronts were open all at one time. The pandemic was an eye-opener. It highlighted a lot of our inefficiency in dealing with the crisis situation. We came to know some real facts and shortcomings in our system, which otherwise we would never have come to know or would have taken a lot of time for us to realize. It has changed the way how we used to perceive our cyber environment. Before, we all were living under certain assumptions and had certain perspective about our cyber setup. And many of those assumptions and perspectives were challenged in the pandemic period. For example, the assumption that we are prepared to deal with a disaster or uncertainty of this magnitude. The assumption about the time that will be available for us to react. Also, the assumption about our cyber security framework, our cyber resilience framework, all have been challenged. And now most of the organizations are having a relook at their cyber setup from a completely new perspective. Cybersecurity is a different world altogether. It has its own rules and protocols. There are good people and bad people in that. The level of innovation and creativity is very high in the space, and that's exactly where the danger lies. There were events in the past which had not only surprised us but also shocked us, like Edward Snowden case, ransomware attack like WannaCry, or attacks on our strategic infrastructure. And what we have learned from these events is that trust no one, verify always. Cybercrime is a byproduct of digitalization. So more crowded digital space will be, more will be the attacks. Even in the space of cybersecurity, speed of execution is important. Because of AI ML, speed of execution of offense has gone high. But thankfully, the defense speed and response is higher than the offense. At Tradebulls, our biggest concern, or one of our biggest concern, was cybersecurity. We were keeping track of the pandemic situation around the globe. We anticipated that a lockdown type situation can come. So we need to prepare for work from home environment. For that, we had to prioritize our task, and security was the topmost priority. At the start of pandemic, as an organization, we had to deal with multiple technology challenges, and the major ones were bandwidth limitations, providing machines to the users, high iteration in the IT sector, and of course cybersecurity. Purely from understanding perspective, there are two types of environment in an organization: private and public environment. Public environment are the systems that are on the internet, used by the clients or franchisees or business partners. Private environment is a more confidential environment, which is meant only for the organization users. In that, there are enterprise applications, user machines, servers, network, DevOps environment, and so on. The main challenge was to protect the private environment, since comparatively the public environment we had taken enough or decent amount of care. Before, the private environment was mainly accessed from within the secure office perimeter, just like a closely guarded castle. But now the new reality is that there is no perimeter. With work from home culture, there was a constant fear of cyber attacks due to vulnerability of weak home networks. But just like many others, we had no option but to take proper precautions and ensure that a business as usual happens without any hindrances, while allowing people to work from anywhere. Pandemic was the exact moment the cyber criminals were waiting for. They wouldn't have missed this opportunity for the world. It was like a mountain of treasure in front of them. In cybersecurity, the top work from home challenges were making sure that the computing devices of the end user are properly secured, giving remote employees secure access to the corporate network. And last one is to secure privileged users who have never worked from home before. So in case of work from home, we were mainly dealing with three major threats. One is endpoint security, password attack, and phishing attack, which was mainly COVID related. Nearly 60% of the Indian companies were targeted by email-based security threats on a weekly basis. As an organization, we had taken enough precautions like use of VPN, introducing a new password policy or password change policy, user training, and so on. But here the endpoints were not in our control, since it was used not only by the users but also by their family members for surfing, checking mails, online classes, and so on. Though we had given sufficient training to our users, but it was not practical to expect family members of a user to understand and follow cyber rules. So now the only choice that we had was to be prepared by safeguarding our assets, assuming that a user might commit a mistake or one of our own person might create a problem for us. And we need to have a master plan ready to deal with such a situation and mitigate the risk and have a robust resilience framework in place. In the start of the pandemic, the reported cyber attack cases in India had gone up by nearly 3 times, from 4 lakhs to 12 lakhs. These are just the reported cases, whereas actually it might be much more than that, maybe 10 times. It can be 40 lakhs. The reason is most of the SMEs, they don't tend to disclose in case of an attack. Among all the different types of cyber attack cases, the highest was the DDoS and password attack, and the most affected sectors were banking, healthcare and education. But lately we have also seen increase in economic espionage cases. With the risk around us, most of the organizations have shifted their approach from business first to security first, since they have realized without security it's impossible to do business. So from organizations' priority standpoint, cybersecurity has moved up the stack.
Well, Anees, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. I got to learn a lot from this interaction, and I'm sure the audience will also get to learn a lot from your conversation. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.